symbols, themes, all that good stuff. You can check it out here because you see it right here on the screen. And I don't know what I've taken. I think it's my pre-workout formula. I'm just so bouncy today. And welcome back to The Angry Teacher. I'm Richard Williams, The Angry Teacher, and this is the Angry Teacher channel where we talk about everything education. If it's your first time here, thanks for coming by. Check out the playlist, see which one speaks to you, and just watch them all day. Just binge watch on the playlist. And give me a thumbs up, a like, a comment, a subscribe. Tap that button. And so you'll be always up to date. You'll know when there's a new playlist or when there's something added to your favorite playlist, all right? If you've been here before, you know I love y'all. Thanks for making this brand what it is. Thanks for building it with me. Thanks for being with me on this journey. Let's get into the video. Now, I am very passionate about my teaching poetry and teaching short stories and whatever. And so for all these years, I've tried different things to kind of get kids to understand while we're ripping the works apart, while we're pulling apart Blake, while we're pulling apart Shakespeare, while we're pulling apart Nella Larson. So this is a video to kind of show you how I do it. What's an L.A.P, you ask? It's literally a literary analysis and participation chart. I created it because it's easier for kids to work with graphic organizers, and this is one of the most popular ones in my classroom. And it works for every grade level, by the way. So whatever you teach, whatever grade level, whatever genre you're teaching, whatever subject I would dare add, it speaks to that as well. You can just make it your own, right? If you want more clarity on this after this video, check out my Teacher Pay Teacher, my TPT store, and you'll be able to check out a more slowed down version of what we're doing here. Okay, you'll see it in the different products that you can check out and purchase. Okay, let's get into the video. Now, literary analysis and participation chart is a little bit of a mouthful. So after the first couple of months using it or weeks using it, the kids have, or was it me? Maybe it was me. But in any case, it's affectionately known as L.A.Ps. And because we do the different works throughout the year, I just put a number at the end. So it's L.A.P 1, L.A.P 2, L.A.P 3, and so on and so forth. I think at this point, whenever I say L.A.Ps, the kids either roll their eyes because they know what it is, or they get happy because they know what it is. So it's a shorter version of saying we're going to break down a poem, break down a short story, or we're going to have a class discussion or group discussion, or you're working by yourself, but we're going to rip some authors apart. Let's get into it. All right, so the objectives of L.A.Ps, they are as follows. There are about 6 or 7 of them. So the first one is to get students to analyze text. I teach literature or English, so obviously I'm going to use poetry and short stories and some articles or whatever. But if you're teaching U.S. history or an elective, you can always use articles, or if they're using a specific chapter of the book, they can use an L.A.P chart to break those down as well. Math even, but you would have to figure out how to categorize it. As you know, we get into the video, you're going to see what the categories are. But it helps them analyze text. Number 2, it gets students to have a common process for this analysis of text. So you won't have one over here taking random notes, that one over there is actually using another graphic organizer, one is using little circles. Everyone's on the same page, they know what to look for because all the categories are the same for everyone across the board. So there's some commonality in how to analyze this text. It also has students access their analysis easily. Instead of having a sheet of paper here with notes and sheet of paper here and a note, you can have an L.A.P book. Just have them have all their charts in the same book. Or they know exactly when they see a chart crumpled up in their book bag, they know it's an L.A.P, so they take it out. Okay, that's not the story I'm looking for. Let me keep looking for L.A.P charts because I know what they look like. There's another objective, number 4, it looks like, to get students to actively participate in class. Now, when I started this before the pandemic, we did it on the board and I was the one instructing it, or I'd ask kids to come up and do it after a while once they got to the hang of things. It was great. Then Corona hit. I had to figure out how the heck am I going to do this? And then, if you're teaching in 2020 or 2021, you know that a lot of these kids are not participating because they're not actively involved in the process. So what I decided, let's do an L.A.P chart. And that was how you're going to send the work to me, so I know you were paying attention. When I talk about things and I discuss it to the computer screen, you are going to be writing this stuff down in the chart. And if you send it to me with something completely what I wasn't talking about, or you didn't send it to me at all, I know you weren't participating. So that's one of the things about the L.A.P charts that I love. It helps them to be actively participating. And when I pop into their teams groups, you see those kids, they've been doing it, man. That's what I'm talking about. All right. It also provides students with encouragement and builds self-esteem. If I didn't know what to do, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what the poem is about, I don't know what the story is saying, I'm confused as crap. Once I start with my L.A.P, I know I'm going to look for certain things. So I look for those. And then while I'm reading again and again, I'm going to get it. While they're talking, while my group is talking to me, while the teacher's talking to me, at some point, things will start to click because I have it compartmentalized and I know how things are supposed to be and how it's going to turn out. So I'm feeling good about myself because I'm understanding. I didn't know I was going to be learning something, but I did. Another objective, number 6, I believe, it provides teachers with a knowledge of the student's comprehension. If you see little Johnny always turning in his L.A.P charts and there's always a section that's blank, you know that Johnny doesn't understand what tone is, or he doesn't know what motifs are, or he doesn't understand that there's a second character that should be driving the story. These are things that you can address with your consultations when you're conferencing with these students. So it helps us and not just the students. And then lastly, it allows students to have fun while learning. I've told you before, and it's just amazing to me. There's some classes when I pop into their teams groups, they're working and you hear them talking and they're like, no, that's not how it is, and blah, blah, blah. And it's because they're referencing the L.A.Ps, because they're showing their screen and you're seeing that they're talking about the different parts. They're talking about the characters, they're breaking down and they're typing it in. It is an amazing thing. So I'm gonna need you to try it now. All right. Now, here's what it looks like. Let me move myself again. Let me put myself over here, I guess. All right, so for poetry, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because I don't want the video to be long. It's already 8 minutes. I mean, come on. I know I talk a lot, but come on. All right, so this is what it looks like. So regular graphic organizer, regular chart. There are literary devices for poetry, themes, style and structure. That's where you put how, if it's main idea, then the supporting details, or supporting details, then the main idea. This is where you put the diction, the type of words used. This is where you put where the spaces are, the rhyme scheme, all of that good stuff in that category, that box right here. Then you have the symbols. Then you have the motifs. And then you have the tone and the vocabulary that they're not familiar with. Here you can also put, once again, some of the diction that was used. So it depends on how you want to frame it. It's up to you. And that's just for the poetry section. Once again, I'm running through this real quick. If you want a more elaborate video, check out my TPT, or check out one of the other videos on how I teach tone and how I teach short stories, how I teach poetry for that matter. All right, so that was poetry. Now we're moving on, and you will notice the difference. Pay attention to the different colored blocks up at the top. For short stories, it starts out the same. It has literary devices, themes, style, structure, symbols, motifs, tone, and vocabulary. The same ideas in the beginning. But then something else happens. There's a second chart, or second part of the chart, rather, second screen, if you will, that they need to pay attention to for short stories. And those are characters. You need a character to drive the story. Not just the character. For short stories, you need a conflict, and it comes really quickly. It's not like a play or a novel that it takes a while to develop. It happens fairly quickly. So they have to pay attention to the conflict and the characters. And I break them down by character 1. You look for the adjectives that describes the characters. And you don't even have to find it in the story. You're actually inferring it. There you go, from the story. So you're looking for adjectives, traits, the actions of the character. What does he or she say? How do people look at them? How do they dress? These are things that a lot of kids gloss over, or they just focus on the physical. They're not focusing on the fact that if a character is always rubbing their tummy or always patting their head, there's something to be said about that. There's something important about that. So they have to pay attention to it. They have to pay attention to the conflict. And this is where you talk about the man versus man versus society. Yes, but you also talk about the fact that little Johnny is conflicted about, should I go home or should I go to the park when mom says to come home? I'm conflicted. So these are things that they need to pay attention to. And very important, and that's why it's in red. The important events, important lines, important quotes. There are certain things that are said for a reason. Most short stories, when they end, and especially if they end with someone saying something, it's important. So pay attention to that. So you know what? We're going to isolate it. We're going to put it on a chart so you know that when we're writing to it, when we're talking about it again, that's something to bring up in conversation. That's something to bring up in your writing. Next we have, and this is where I think a lot of U.S. history or government teachers or civics teachers or elected teachers, this is where you come in. This is your junk right here. It's the same kind of chart. Let me start with that first. The rhetorical devices, you can bring that up if you want, but it's also about whatever you want to make it. Now, you can edit this and make it your own, but for the most part, this is it's in most of them. And then I tried to, because I've taught AP Lang, I tried to make it something that's not necessarily fictitious. It's based on the nonfiction that we read. So there is rhetorical devices, there are messages or themes, the style and structure, that's still there. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. There's the purpose and the occasion of the document, the speech or the article that we're reading. Who's the audience? And I need to identify that and separate it from all the mush and all the words that's going on. The tone and the vocabulary and the power verbs that they use. So the style, for example, if it's an inflammatory speech, you know that they're going to be using words that would inflame the reader. So, or whoever the audience of the speech was, or the document was written to. So these are things they need to pay attention to in order for them to understand the context. The second slide will be a lot different than the short stories. Instead of having characters, we're going to have claims and arguments. So we have argument 1, claim 1. What do they say? And it's usually like one sentence or at least part of a paragraph or something. They put it in there, they identify that. And then we have, are there any contradictions? Is the person going against what their own argument is? So if they identify 4 claims, trust me, there's an essay in there already. They can write it out. All right. So they have that going on, and then they identify important events. And this can be events of the time, events why the speech was, and you know, you kind of hinted at it with the purpose and the occasion, but why was the speech given? What important line should I pay attention to? I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream. That's always there. It's not, ask me not what I can do for my country, what my country can do for me, but what I can do for my country. Stuff like that. That's where they identify those things, because they need to separate them. So when I give you that essay and you're writing about it, you can put it back in there. You know exactly where it is and you know exactly what it is. And you can know they can put paragraph 6, line 12, whatever. It's up to them. It's up to you as a teacher as well. All right. So we have the proposed resolve. Was there a resolution in their speech or at the end of the document? Was there something that was said that we need to pay attention to? So when there's a discussion, we can bring it up. Counter arguments, very big on non-fiction documents. So we need to bring that in. Non-fiction articles. Was there a counter argument? What was said that we can go against what was brought up in the beginning? All right. So those are for civics classes, electives, even English, you know, when we use or articles or speeches and documents. Plays and novels. Let's get back to English and literature. Same beginning. Figurative language, literary devices, symbols, themes, all that good stuff. You can check it out here because you see it right here on the screen. And I don't know what I've taken. This is my pre-workout formula. I'm just so bouncy today. In any case, that's what we do for plays and novels. The tone is there and the vocabulary. We always have to include the vocabulary, new vocabulary even. Or you know what, not necessarily just new, but vocabulary that they notice that would make a difference in the reading. Also with plays and novels, the ending, they have a second slide. So poetry so far is the only one with one slide. Everything else has two. So we go back to the characters, we go back to the conflict. There always has to be a conflict. Once again, it's longer in finding it, or it takes a little bit of time to find it in novels and plays, but it's there. Things the character says, things the characters do, and it might be more than one character. So for this activity, it might take a longer time to teach and to use it, and that's why when they turn it in, it's like a project grade because it's a lot of work. But it keeps everything together, especially if they do it. And some of my kids, they like doing this now, and it's like driving me crazy because a good crazy, because I like the creativity. When they use PowerPoints for this, it might be a lot of slides, but it's cute. It looks really good, man. All right. Plays and novels have a third slide. That's how intense it gets and how much we have to put in. So we identify the opening scene, we identify the codas or the closing scenes of the plays. We identify the specific acts, what was happening in the act. You summarize the act for me, and what was the importance of that act, or the importance of what the events were in those acts. All right, scenes, chapters, those are because the books might be longer or whatever, it might require more slides. And that's why in my TPT store, I make the document editable, or you can manipulate the different slides because you're going to have to add different ones, right? Now, lastly, that's it, by the way. But lastly, here's a tip, and it's like just for us in English. I mean, for the most part, everybody needs to know. Let me move myself again to make sure you guys are paying attention. Hey. In any case, it's like I can't think of the word right now. This is esoteric to the language arts or the literature, or specifically AP Lit, because I don't know if regular language arts teachers even use this terminology anymore, because we're the only ones that are forced to use it. But motifs. Now this is like an industry term, if you will, but it is a literary term that is an idea, object, or concept that repeats itself. I tell my students about twice. If you see hands mentioned in one paragraph, feet mentioned in the other paragraph, and then ears mentioned in one. Now those are three, but if they see at least two parts of a mention, then you know what, it's a motif. Let's put it on that L.A.P. It's the motif of body language, all right, or body parts. If Miss Janie smiles in paragraph 6, and then she smiles again in paragraph 12, then we can say smiling or Janie smiles are motifs. Okay, so we throw that on the chart, and that's how those work. So it repeats itself throughout the text, and it gives clues to the theme. So the theme could be do not lose your happiness, because if she frowns at the end, then you know that could have been the theme. Or if there was a group of friends, and the same example when I mentioned the hands and the feet and the ears, and in the end, if the group of friends and they lose one member, then the theme, those motifs, the body parts, could be talking about losing vital parts of your body, losing parts that make you whole. So that could be the theme, and then the motifs of the hands, the feet, and the ears kind of add to helping you understand that. Okay, so that's how motifs work. So that's the Angry Teacher tip for the day. But here's some popular ones. Every short story, every poem, for the most part, kind of has these are, and there's some others. I didn't want to overdo it with video. It's already 20 minutes and I'm gonna have to edit all of this down. But in any case, some popular ones are nature. They pop up a lot. Time, temperature, movement, emotions, texture, color. And so if you see on the charts where I put, let me go back to it. Right here, you see the NTTT, MC. I didn't put the E because sometimes emotions aren't in there, but it's one of those that comes up on a lot of other popular stuff. But right here, that's where we put all this stuff. If you see them talk about trees a lot, or the wind blowing, or the fact that the cat keeps coming in while the wind is blowing, that's nature. That's at least 2 times, right? It repeats itself. The movement, the cat walks across the stage and the presenter stumbles back. That's movement. In the beginning of the story, it was bright daylight and then night comes, and then that's when the creepy creatures come out. The time change, that's time. So that's how motifs work, and I think you get it. I love making these charts because they help the kids understand what's going on. The lower level student and the higher level student, they're on the same playing field. Now, obviously, the higher level is going to have a lot more on their chart, but as long as my lower level understands the chart and understands how to fill it out, that means they're understanding parts of the story. And it's just an amazing thing. I suggest that you use them. I suggest that you watch and see how your kids are learning from these charts, because they make my life a lot easier. They will for you too. Right, so thanks for giving me your attention today. I love you all to death. I need you to go out there and be great. Hey, let's just go out there and teach.